So first, can you just say and spell your name and what your title would be?
Hey, my name is Lori Kay. That's LorrykAye, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor through Washington State.
Perfect. So, so tell me when um, you first, when Mike first approached you for help, and kind of what he was asking for.
Okay, that was in November 2010. He got a hold of me, came into my office for an appointment, and he wasn't quite sure what was going on with him. He was feeling what he described as this heaviness and this fog. Just wasn't doing very well. I gave him what's called a Beck depression inventory. It's a 3-page question and answer thing. And he scored a 24 on that. It says that if you're 16 or above, then help is needed, that you're depressed, and he scored a 24. So he was severely depressed, and I think that surprised him.
So do you think there was some issues that he'd been suppressing for a long time?
Yeah, he was going through a divorce at that point, his second divorce, and he was going through some child custody issues, and that I think that was weighing on him, but I think there was a lot more than that. And I think, in my opinion, there were a lot of things that he was suppressing. So over the course of, well, a couple of years, really, we started to deal with some of those things.
Great. Just let me look at this real quick. Just to make sure. So how do you think you've been able to help Mike most through all this?
Well, um, being his therapist, I thought it was important to really look at some of his family of origin issues, some of his relational issues, and his trauma. The trauma of losing the ability to walk, his paralysis. And I think that in Mike's mind, he was done with that. He had worked through that, and that was not an issue whatsoever. And I didn't really agree with him. And over the course of time, after we dealt with a lot of other things first, I pushed him to really take a look at that and to go through that trauma. There was a lot of different therapeutic techniques that we employed to do that, but I think that was a big one.
And he said over the years that people have suggested to him that he might want to try skiing again. And he's always said, no, 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 it's not the right time. Do you think working through some of these issues maybe made him reconsider that? Or?
Yeah, I think Mike has a big personality, and Mike needs to put his all into anything that he does. And I think skiing for him, the freestyle skiing and the things that he did was perfection. That was perfection. And any thought of going back and having it be less than perfect, I don't think it appealed to him. And my thought was there's the underlying trauma that hasn't fully been dealt with, which keeps him. I mean, it's really common in trauma survivors to avoid whatever it is that reminds them of the trauma. And I thought that there was some avoidance involved. And I thought if it couldn't be the way it was, then he wasn't going to touch that.
And then through your conversations, it maybe kind of brought it to his mind that this might be the right time? Or?
Yeah, I think I recall a time when it was snowing here, and snowing anytime there was snow, to Mike for a long time, it was, to use his words, it was like he was imprisoned. because when you're wheelchair bound, I mean, it creates, I think there's a lot of fear and a feeling of being trapped. And I think for years, that's the way he had looked at it when it snowed. And I think through therapy, through working through a lot of old traumas and old family of origin issues and the trauma of losing his ability to walk, of the paralysis, he began to look at it differently. I think he began to see that maybe it doesn't need to be a prison. After not avoiding the trauma talk and really getting into it in fine detail, I think he came to the point where he looked at it differently. And I think he did become ready.
Wow, that's great. How, what are some of the words that you could describe Mike as? I mean, he's just a strong personality from what I've seen, forceful. How would you describe him?
Strong personality. Very goal driven. Very, he can get single-minded on some sort of a project, and he's like a Jack Russell Terrier. He's gonna grab onto that, and he's gonna go for it, and nothing's going to stop him. He's very determined. He can be bullheaded. He's very big. Everything about Mike is big. His voice, his ideas, his personality. I even think that some people could see it as conceited or, all about himself, that he's all that. But I think that was a function for him early on, that in order for him to survive some of his early life and trials and tribulations, I think that was how he coped, is being the best that he could be at anything and taking it on no matter what it was and seeing it to the finish. So he's a pretty amazing guy. And I have to say, in being in practice, for 30 years in various areas in my field, he took on therapy with a fervor, the way he does anything else. He did his homework. He went above and beyond. He dove in. He dove in with his whole self, and I don't often see that.
Right. You've mentioned that you do work with veterans that have PTSD and some with disabilities. So it's pretty special for Mike to be a kind of guy that can just overcome all his limitations. Is that the way you would see it? And it's pretty unusual, do you think?
Yes, I think it's unusual. I think, of course, combat trauma, war trauma is a little bit different. And most of the veterans who do have physical disabilities also have emotional disabilities, have, post-traumatic stress being one of them. I think that Mike will have a unique ability to bond with some of these veterans that have physical and emotional disabilities. I think he can relate to them on a level that maybe you or I can't relate to them. And I think it's a wonderful way for Mike to be challenging his efforts, or directing his efforts at this point, to be able to help wounded warriors.
That's great. So you were saying he had some issues early in his life. I mean, like maybe just briefly we could talk about those that would have created this personality that you see today.
Okay. Well, he was abandoned by his mom, and then stolen by his mom, taken away from his dad. He moved around to school after school after school after school. So there were abandonment issues. There were you know, trauma issues as far as not being able to trust, not being able to bond, um, intimacy issues when you've been abandoned, that kind of thing happens. Uh, you know, and I think there are some people who fall apart when those sort of things happen. Uh, they might get into doing the same sort of behaviors, moving around, not being able to bond, abandoning. Uh, but I think Mike found, well, he talks about his stepfather, Jack, who really helped him to find himself, I think. And he loved Jack so much that he chose to stay with him when his mom left for the umpteenth time. And Mike wanted to prove himself and prove to Jack that he was worthy of, what Jack was willing to do for him, and let him stay with him when he was 15. And Mike became this super athlete, this, you know, super person, this huge personality. And I think part of it was he was trying to prove worthy of Jack's love and affection and caring. And so I see that the events in his life have led up to him being this big person, this big man that is going to continue to prove himself, I suppose.
Great, yeah. Let's see. So we've talked about goals. What do you think this project's going to do for him? Is it just a continuation of his journey of goal setting and accomplishing things? How has he talked about the project with you? Like, what do you think the benefits will be?
Well, I think that Mike is a goal-oriented person, and I think with everybody, I think having something to look forward to is uplifting. For Mike, like I said, having something to look forward to for him is it has to be huge. You know, it's all, like I said, everything is big, and I think it gives him energy. I think him being goal-directed and working toward a project that's bigger than him, that helps others, you know, gives him direction. I think it's going to be very positive for him and many others. And I'm not sure what else you asked. That was a long question.
No, that's good. I'm going to stop this for just a second.
You want me to stop?
Yeah, we can stop it. I actually need to turn.
Wrong.
Okay, we were talking about maybe visiting some other thoughts you might have.
Well, I think, you know, one of the things that I don't want it to be seen in a negative light, but I think psychologically speaking, when someone has been abandoned by their mom, has been shuffled around, has had different father figures in their life, I think a lot of people tend to feel that somehow they're lacking in value. Somehow they're less than. Because children are very egocentric, and they think that everything that happens is because of them. So I think something that contributes to Mike's big personality is subconsciously that he needs to matter, and he needs to continue to prove that he matters, that he is of worth, that he can do and he can accomplish, he can help others. And that's a drive that's really strong, but often subconscious. And I think that's at play here too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we all feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like as a photographer, if nobody calls me for a week, I start going, wait, what's going on?
Exactly. Exactly.
You go, God, what's my next step?
Exactly.
So, let's see.
You know, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just a kind of not a deep issue or anything, but are you excited to see Mike take on this project? There's some unknowns about it. Is he going to be able to climb up that mountain? Is he going to be able to ski down? I mean, he's putting himself out there totally. You know, on the radio, we're doing this, and there's a lot of, like, some people would feel a lot of pressure, but it seems like it gives him drive.
Yes, I have concerns. Concerns that I don't have a lot of concerns for Mike and his psychological well-being, because what I have learned about Mike is that it doesn't matter what's thrown in his path. He will overcome it or find a way around it or over it or through it. It doesn't matter. I think psychologically he's sound and he's going to do well with that. He put himself out there with relearning to ski after 28 years. He was confident it was going to happen, period. And that's just the way it was. And in sessions, sometimes he'd say, maybe it'll take me longer than I thought, maybe it'll be more difficult than I thought. But he prepared himself for months and months before that. And I knew that no matter what the outcome of that, it was going to be okay. The same with this project. Mike will be okay. The concerns that I have are concerns that probably anybody that knows and cares about Mike is he going to be okay physically? Is he going to be harmed physically? There's, anybody who has the kind of injury and paralysis that Mike has, there's risk. There's risk involved. When he was preparing to relearn to ski and working out at the gym, he got, a sore, and it doesn't heal the way it should heal. And he had to see the wound care specialist weekly, and he had to have bed rest. And so I worry about him physically, but psychologically, I don't worry about that. He's sound, and he will find a way.
That's great. Yeah, that's a good point. Just from all the tremendous amount of training he's going to have to do, plus just accomplishing that. I mean, it's like 20,000 reps of the same thing over and over. Is there anything that you think that we haven't talked about that you think would be important?
Important to this project?
Yeah.
There's nothing that I can think of in his past, in the therapy, in the issues that he came in with that I don't think they're necessarily important to this particular project. But I have to say that what I've watched transform, the Facebook, the people following him on his journey to coming back to skiing, being the skier again. I think that this affects so many more people than just Mike. I mean, it affects everybody who has known him over the last 40 years. It affects people who see the videos on the web and seeing a thing, wow, maybe I can do something like that. Maybe I don't have to sit here feeling trapped. Maybe I can take his lead and better my life. And I think the support that he has gotten in Sun Valley and over Facebook is a support that I think he thrives on. I think he thrives on that. I think that anybody who's had the wounds that he had as a child really needs that support, really needs to feel people are with him. And boy, people are so with him. So with him. I don't often find myself tearing up in therapy, and I find myself tearing up right now. There are times in our counseling sessions where I would tear up at the magnitude of what he's doing and what it means to everybody and to him, and the bravery and that he shows. It's really touching. It's heartwarming.
Great.
What do you think the future holds for Mike in the brightest form?
I think the future, I think he's going to keep going. I mean, I don't care what goal he sets out for himself. He will meet that one way, shape, or form, and he will set another one. And he's going to bring people along with him. And his brightest future is just continuing to set the bar higher and meeting that bar and setting it higher and meeting that bar and rallying all those in his wake to do the same. It's just going to continue.
Perfect. That was great.
All right.
Keller.
I think
So my accomplishments in sit skiing and monoskiing are making it to regional and national as well as international competitions.
Cool. I would do your hair. What age were you? Just a little background.
Okay.
about that.
I learned to ski and race simultaneously in 1979 via the Ski for All program at Snoqualmie Summit. I was one of the first students they ever had, and it started off with the word sit ski eventually evolved into monoskiing. A sit ski was a toboggan, literally a toboggan, small toboggan, where you sat on the ground, and that was the sit ski. Over a period of time, and that was like 1979, 1980. Over a period of time, by 1985, in Germany, a new version of that evolved called the monoski, because it was above the ground, about 12 inches, and it was a boot-like device, and it had a single ski underneath it with a leaf spring, and it was the GFL from Europe. And everybody wanted to get off the snow from their sit ski, a fiberglass formed unit, to be able to be above the snow and use outriggers so that they could angulate, turn, and utilize the ski down the mountain. That's what happened. That was the beginning of it.
That's perfect. It takes to become like an expert monoski. From all your observations and experience.
Depending on the individual on the monoski, I think if a person has skied before, they have an innate understanding of how the ski operates. If that's the case, they can catch on to it very quickly. If it's somebody who has never skied in their life, I think it's going to be more difficult because they don't understand the edging, like waiting, unwaiting, and waiting again, and getting to make the ski work for them. Because if you can get the ski work for you, that's half the battle. And so that for me would be the difference. A person who's never skied versus a person who has skied. I think Mike, because he had skied before, would pick it up. I knew from the second I met him that when I went all out to recruit him, which he said no to, and we can come back to that or whatever, he would pick it up like that.
Okay, so now let's get into the mechanics of it. When we were out there with Mike, he was having to put a lot of pressure on his outriggers.
Right.
And it looked like he was almost forcing himself to turn like that. And you're talking about waiting and unwaiting.
Right.
So,
Right.
So that's interesting.
Right. So if you're skiing the right way and letting the ski work for you, the outriggers are your poles. They are there to assist you when you are off balance. In a monoski, the outriggers are there to help you initiate the turn, and then you use your torso to get back off of it and use it to initiate it and come back. If you are dragging them, it's probably because you're new. You're a beginner and you're nervous and you don't know how it's all working, so you're dragging them and you're overusing your upper body and its strength because you are afraid. And that's really natural and normal for anybody who's learning for the first time how to ski. And then until you have white-knuckled it all the way to the bottom, anybody, you will learn that eventually over time you can pivot forward, come back, pivot forward, come back, and over time it becomes very fluent.
John, when she's moving, I'm getting some cracking, just so you know. Or like, it's like scratching on her
Okay,
neck.
don't-
Yeah, that's why I gotta hide.
Hey. For me, it's hard to imagine where he's going to ski as well as how he's going to get up there. I believe with the enthusiasm, passion that he has about it, that he could get himself there and he could make it happen. Mike is demonstrating that left and right since he came to me. You know, I haven't heard from him for quite some. I met him I met Mike in 1991. I was training to go to the 1992 Paralympics. He was dating my trainer at the time. So in 1991, while training for the 1992 Paralympics in Tignes, France, I met him. At that time, I had learned that he was injured at Alpental in a freestyle event, and thought in my heart of hearts that this guy would be a no-brainer candidate to get to start back skiing. I never skied before my injury. Prior to, I had been competitive my whole life. I'm the youngest of 10 kids. I had 6 older brothers, 3 older sisters, and I think there was just sort of a competitive nature in like sort of survival in the family, in the household. I participated in all sports before skiing came out. I was a national competitor in swimming, track and field, road racing, javelin, shot put, discus, and that was just sort of my nature. When skiing was evolving for the first time, I jumped on that wagon, and then that's where my passion was, and I took to it and never looked back.
Hey Shannon, we're gonna have this cut.
So, because I've always been a can-do person, once I got involved in skiing and got hooked, from the very beginning, from when I had my accident in 1970, I was 10 years old, I immediately learned that the wheelchair was not going to get in my way of anything I wanted to do. So I pursued all the sports, and I pursued skiing, and I just took every single one of them to the limit. So I believe that anyone who has it in their heart, it's ingrained in them, it's their passion, and they want to do something, they can do it. They can do it. I believe Mike can do it with all my heart. And I hope the best for him, and I think he will, you know, it's a life experience for him, it's his journey, and he will figure out in the end how that plays out. I can't say how that's going to play out for him. I believe it can happen for him. It just is, it's just kind of, it's out there. And when I met him in 1991, and I recruited him, and then I recruited him to ski, and then I recruited him to ski and bugged him to no end, he was not interested. It was not the time for him. He was just not there. And then he contacted me 6 months ago, kind of completely out of the blue, hadn't heard from him, and I reconnected, spent a lot of time with him, hearing about what he wanted to do. Where he was at 6 months ago was just getting to Sun Valley to try skiing. That was huge. He had gone through some major internal psychological changes, some transformation internally that, hey, this is something I want to do. Until you get to the point where I want to do this, whether it's with anything, I don't think anybody's going to make you do it. And I was happy to be a part of it. I was so excited for him, and like knew what he had been missing, and was sad that he hadn't had that opportunity before. Didn't matter. That's what's going on with him, and I wanted to support him and help him any way I could. And my goal was to introduce him to the local ski program, get him in a mono ski, dry land it before he hit the snow in Sun Valley, and before he hit the real stuff. So that was what I had hoped for him. Don't worry. Oh, you need it. Oh, it's your thing. Sorry. I thought it may be my glasses or something.
I'm still rolling, John.
Okay.
So my goal was to get him, you know, if I could help him, if I could introduce him to our local program, get him in a mono ski, so he could just sort of fill this thing that he had his sights on, and have outriggers and everything. I thought that'd be a great thing for him. So I'm really happy that I was able to make that happen for him. And I had no concern in the least that Sun Valley would be a complete success. He would have fun, he would do well, And then now he's working to that next goal.
Perfect. So he's going to start skiing again in December. And
Right.
he's going to try to do this in July
Correct.
2014.
Right.
For all your experience of skiing with a monoski, what do you think his best course of action should be? Do you think he should find a mentor or a coach in town, or I mean, or do you think he should try to pick it up on his own, kind of? Or what do you? I mean,
So I think, so I've talked to Mike over the past 6 months a lot about when is going to be your next time on the snow. The next opportunity to be on the snow is not local and it's not in some valley. It's in early December. I told him about it, where they have a ski spectacular, where it's an intro to skiing for all disabilities. It's an intro to all equipment for all disabilities. In conjunction with that is a national ski race. I participated in it for years, forever, while it was happening. Still happening. Is awesome. All the vendors come out there, you get to try it all out, and my goal for Mike is that he would get back on the snow. He had a great experience and did well, and that he would be able to select his own equipment. So he needs to have his own equipment, and I think by the end of that week he would be able to have it, and he would have met tons of great people, lots of resources, networked, and he would be set for the next time he hit the snow, which would be, Seattle time, December, January, perfect. And he has aspirations to redo the event he went to in this past year, again in January, which I think is targeted towards the end of January. So I think he's on the right track. I do think that first thing, equipment. He needs a mentor and a coach to continue to guide him. And because he lives local, he's not going to be able to utilize continuously, unless he's planning to travel back and forth, the contacts he has in some valley.
Getting a little wind there, John, but
okay,
it's not
that'll
too
be
bad.
all right.
Because I know the calendar of what they do, where they do it, and everything. So it's good. He needs his own equipment. He needs more time on the snow, and he needs more awareness about those ski conditions too. I mean, just
Tell me a little bit about you've been like a champion skier. What kind of mindset do you need to accomplish goals like he's trying to do, or like you have?
the mindset. Right now, Mike has the mindset. He's a shaker and a mover, and he's tackling everything just like he should be doing. He's physically working out. He's mentally got it under him, and he basically needs more time on the snow. He needs more time on the snow with his own equipment to improve, and then he needs to do that. He needs to have miles and miles under his belt, miles and miles skiing under his belt. Confidence to go from the green to the blue to the black. And with that, he will be better prepared to tackle Mount Rainier.
Right.
Even at his age, sorry, I'm kind of cold. I'm pumping my own blood. If he could participate, but I don't even want to like verge into it for him. If he could even get into some of the racing stuff, whether he wanted to be a racer or not, all good skiers come from being racers, because they have to, oh my gosh, there's that tree, and whether you're an able-bodied skier or not. My two children were ski racers. My husband's a coach as a result of my whole whatever. And anybody who's had to do, downhill, super G, go places where they maybe didn't want to, turn out to be the most fabulous skiers out there. So that could kind of help him, but I don't want to even, we've never even talked about that, but we're not there yet. He needs equipment first.
I agree with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good.
What do you think about Mike's, his mission to, seems like he's out to help the wounded veterans that are coming back?
I think Mike has demonstrated in his community that he is the kind of guy who likes to give back. He likes to help others. He's got a very big heart. You know, not only is he a dad to 3 children, which he loves, and he's involved in all their activities, and he does whatever he can and is available for them. He's also made himself available to his community and to various groups, organizations, and has taken them on his own and sort of created them. So I love that he has chosen a new cause. I think the Wounded Veterans is amazing, awesome. I know there are so many people there who would be so excited to ski, who could do it easily. During my era of skiing, there was the Paralyzed Veterans Association, and unfortunately, that group via the Vietnam War were not celebrated. As I think back, I mean, it still kills me to this day that they were not celebrated. And right now, in this year of 2013, they're being celebrated, and I love that. And if Mike wants to support it, and he can, and I know it's in his heart, I think that is, I just can't say enough about it.
Fantastic, great.
So much movement. So, what's really important about navigating the hill on a monoski is utilizing your outrigger. Very similar to what you use your pole for. You pivot it and you turn. You pivot it and you turn. Any new beginner you see on the mountain is like white knuckling those poles, and the last thing they want to do is fall down that mountain. And so if they don't angulate and lean their body downhill, what happens? They just turn right back up that mountain and they fall over. Similarly, on a monoski, single ski, that ski is designed to turn, especially curved skis. And with the outrigger is a balance assistant, and they're there to put out, to pivot on the end. And if you lean your torso into it and you lean it downhill with your head pointing in the direction you want to go, the whole ski will just come around with no difficulty. Then you lean forward, just like an able-bodied skier, and then back, and then the other way you plant for a short period of time your other outrigger, lean downhill looking, and then you pivot around and you're back up. So it's very fluid, and effectively you eventually are doing like giant slalom turns or slalom turns, and you're getting down the mountain. If you're clenching them, white knuckling them like a stand-up skier, you end up just going back up the hill and falling. And as a beginner monoskier, oh my gosh, I did that all the time, and it was so frustrating because I did not want to fall downhill. And it's hard for an able-bodied skier, you have your ankles, your knees, and your hips. Those are your joints and leverage to turn to get down the hill. When you're a sit-down skier, you have your hips and your upper body. So you need to maximize that to weight it and make all that happen. So it just takes time.
Right. Good explanation. I think we almost covered everything, unless you can think of anything else that you think Mike should know about Mike? Or?
Well, I didn't know.
In a short summary, what kind of guy is Mike?
Well, I mean, are you taping right now?
Yeah, you can talk to John.
Well, I was thinking, like, I said, does he have any specific questions, or do you know anything about what he's going to act? And he was really cute. He goes, I don't have to be there and listen to it. You could be listening to anything I want. And I figured you'd probably want to know when I started skiing. I don't know if did I tell you my greatest accomplishment? I don't know.
Well, I asked you what your credentials were, but
in a short word, words, how would you describe Mike?
Like Mike's character, like character traits, driven.
Yeah, so I thought, like, you would probably ask me when I learned to ski, when I met Mike, and what I think about what's Mike trying to do. And I was just thinking back on, like, what I did. For what I did, it was like a no-brainer. I just I was just driven kind of person from the get-go. I didn't even think like, ooh, I might get here or whatever, but because the sport was sort of evolving and everything at the time.
Wait, I have a question. You did this long time. Have you kept up at all with the equipment?
Oh, totally. Huh.
Yeah, so tell me now.
I'm dialed.
Yeah, tell me
6 minutes jump.
what Mike's gonna, how Mike learned on a trainer ski or a ski that
Right.
wasn't fit for him. How much different is it going to be to get something like custom fit for him or
Okay.
dialed in for him like that? How was it for you to get to the right?
I know. So I'm like thinking how it was for me, and then what's gonna be like Mike before we start. Let me just think for a second. It's not the privilege, but he's gonna have the. Okay. Do you want me to just? I know I have it in mind.
Yeah.
So as I think back on Mike and where I was, I think Mike and I have a lot in common. I was part of the wave of the new equipment. It had just been, it was quickly evolving to the monoski, and the monoski took me many places that I would never been able to be with the ski that was a toboggan-like device. Never thought in a million years that I would end up at the Olympics in 1992, competing in all 4 events and coming home with a silver medal in the giant slalom. Mike has the luxury, which I'm so excited for him, that he has all the benefits of that equipment that came to be, which began in 1985, that is completely available. There's like 3 to 5 monoskis to pick from. He will go to his next event, the Ski Spectacular in Breckenridge, Colorado, this first week of December, and he will try it out. That equipment, he will be able to fix it quickly. He will be able to fit and find out what works for him quickly, outriggers that work for him quickly, and with that, he will just have such an opportunity to do whatever he wants with the ski. Whether he wants to ski recreationally, if he wanted to ski and compete in the Masters capability, he could do that. He could race. He could ski slalom, giant slalom, Super G and downhill if he wanted to. No problem. He could just go and be his own extreme skier. There's so many possibilities for him with that equipment that's out there, and he can do whatever he wants. You know, sky's the limit. So that's what, and Mike has, you know, when I met him, he's very outgoing, very personable, and because he's been reflected to me in the past 6 months, he's on his way, hands down.
That's perfect.
Do you think you would ever go to Breckenridge? And do you ever go? Do you go to that anymore? Or you've kind of stepped out of the sport a little bit. Or?
Yeah. Well, I raced from 1985. I was kind of ready to quit because it was a long story, but I went out. I was like, we didn't have funds. Like the ski team didn't fund us back then. We were like the hit and miss, like low people.
Right.
It was like ski team, freestyle, downhill, Nordic, whatever that, and then disabled. Now they're funded. I was, right when I was getting to quit, I was invited to join the team. I raced from 1985 till 1994. In 1994, after I finished skiing, because I was trying to get it out of my system, I got married. I got married the same year I got invited to do the team. Raced for 9 years, and then my next dream was to move on and be a mom. Got pregnant. I was training at Salt Lake City in 1993. In 1994, and I was vomiting up the chairlift. And then, you know, I knew I was pregnant, and then that's when I resigned. I resigned in 1994, and I moved on. I have a beautiful 18-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son. And although I had these wonderful, I worked at the time at the University of Washington Medical Center, and I had doctors who were all promoting me to go. I'd be 16 weeks pregnant, but I was a speed skier. I like downhill and Super G. And anyways, I would have to give up some of that. And it just all came together for me personally that I didn't want to risk this to this little new entity. I was ready for my next adventure for myself, which was dying to be a mom. So I've done that. I do motivational speaking still, and I mean, I know that's kind of a goal of his to do.
Yeah.
I got called left and right. I did every local TV show. I was in every possible whatever. I was very fortunate, and I actually I couldn't appear at everything they wanted me to do when I became a mom. So I just sort of emerged back out of it. But I've continued to be, it was a fun race. I learned to ski, learned to race.
I'm thinking is we might do this where we pretend like you haven't gone to Sun Valley yet.
Okay,
Because
okay.
this is the beginning of your whole journey.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So that's kind of the way I'd like to start it. And then we can do, because we came up with a new name now.
Yeah.
Is it Return to Paradise or Returning? What do you think?
Return is probably just simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah, return to paradise. Yeah. Just
Okay.
cutting out a syllable.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's start with your project. It's called Return to Paradise. Well, like why? And a little bit about you were there your early ski history. You were there 35 years ago, and you suffered your injury, and now you're going to return back.
Okay.
We can try that. Are you rolling, Zach?
Yep, we're rolling, John.
All right. Yeah. Tell me about this project, Mike. Or actually, first, go ahead and we'll start from square one. You're going to introduce yourself and a little bit of your previous history.
Okay, my name is Mike Vowles. I am 57 years old. I am a former champion level freestyle skier from back in the 1970s. I got injured hitting a tree snow skiing, spinal cord injury back in 1985. So it has been 28 years since the time I got hurt, and I'm looking to go back skiing, and I've got some ambitious goals ahead of me. One of them being going back skiing, learning how to ski again on a mono ski, and I'm also looking to return to Mount Rainier, to Paradise, and the.
Here's the thing. Just finish it with learning to ski on the mono ski. And then
Yeah.
We'll go to the next thing.
Okay. Okay.
We'll do it in little bursts.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try that again.
and
Let's try
pieces.
that again. Okay.
All right. Yeah. So introduce yourself and a little bit about your
Okay.
past.
My name is Mike Vowles. I'm 57 years old. I'm a former championship level freestyle skier from the 1970s, and am about to embark on a journey of going to Sun Valley, Idaho, and learning to ski again after 28 years away.
Perfect.
Good.
So why after 28 years?
Why after 28 years? That's a big popular question. And when I got hurt back in 1985, I was 29 years old at the time. I was at the peak of my physical prowess. I was at the best level of skiing I had ever been. And when I got hurt, I just opted to not ski again. The monoski, sit ski was in its early cruder developmental stage at the time, and it's something that was not of interest. It wasn't a draw for me, and I really wanted to leave skiing as it was, perfect. And I pretty much chose to put it up on a shelf, put a little glass case, crystal case over the top of it, leave it as it is, and I just said to people, that's a closed chapter of my life, and I want to keep it that way. I want to reserve that as just being a perfect part of my life that I did, and I didn't want to ever do it any different than the way I did. I didn't want to compromise that in any way, shape, or form.
Perfect. Okay, now we've got this project. It's called Return to Paradise. How come that name?
Well, Return to Paradise, I'm looking to go back to Sun Valley, Idaho soon and learn how to monoski, and I'm anticipating going back into skiing permanently. It's something I haven't done yet. I don't, while I have, I anticipate how well it's going to go for me, but it's still an unknown because I haven't done it for 28 years. I've got myself well conditioned in preparation for this, and one of the things I want to do is return to a spot on Mount Rainier, which is where the Paradise Lodge is. Some 36 years ago was the last time I was at Paradise on Mount Rainier. And when I was there, I was working with John Mohan and Walt Hiltner, who were co-authors of a book on freestyle skiing, the fundamentals. So the last time I was up there doing full twisting front somersaults, all kinds of aerial acrobatic maneuvers as a demonstrator for this book. So it's been a long time since I've been up to Mount Rainier on Paradise, and I'm looking to go up there and ascend, self-propel myself up to the 10,000 foot level to Camp Muir and ski down. So I'm returning to Paradise literally, but it also reflects my return to skiing, because skiing was a gigantic, integral part of my life, and it was my paradise. It was my paradise for 16 years, and I'm looking to recover that and get it back, and going up to Paradise on Mount Rainier is a piece of that. So Return to Paradise is the title of the documentary ski film I'm working on.
Perfect. So what's it going to take, do you think? You got to learn how to ski, then you've also got to figure out how to get yourself up there. Let's talk about getting yourself up there. What's the planning process for that?
Okay, well, with the assumption that I've learned to ski again and that I've had time to get proficient at it, which I fully anticipate I will, I've started working through some design work on figuring out how to self-propel myself up to Camp Muir from Paradise, and we're looking to build something where it's going to be a set of skis with something that I'm sitting in. I'm looking to be pedaling my way up with my hands and my arms, and going up on a static line. So we're in the design process of that right now. I'll probably have a team of 8 to 10 good skiing friends of mine that are going to help me go up, and whether it's going to take 2 days to get up Camp Muir, whether it could be done in 1 day, that's the kind of thing I don't know about, but I'll be training for that once this apparatus is engineered, and I'll have the start of next ski season from December to July to get ready for that. So I've got to learn how to ski again, and then I've got to start training with this apparatus that's going to get me up to 10,000 foot level on Mount Rainier.
Perfect. Now this apparatus, you probably got some help, huh?
Yeah. I've got some help. I've already gotten together with some friends of mine, just to kind of brainstorm our way through this. And we've already made some headway as far as just the brainstorming process about it. We'll be, coming up with something in the next few months where I'll probably be trying it right here in my own neighborhood. Maybe I'll be, working on, sitting in my wheelchair on pavement, going up a hill, and start to get a sense of the mechanics that are going to be involved, so we can find out the best way to put my upper body to use. And, speaking of which, I'm paralyzed from about the chest level down. So there's the logistics of the climb, then there's the logistics of my situation and what I have to work with. So as we start to design this thing, we're going to have to, work through all those minutia details to fit me. and then at the same time that apparatus has got to fit the ski hill, the mountain, as far as how we're going to go up. And the intent is once we get up to our destination, that unit will be broken down and put into other guys' backpacks because I'll be mono-skiing down the mountain. That's my intent.
Perfect. And tell me a little bit about Brent, your neighbor. I mean, you've got a lot of people advising you. He seems like a real hands-on, handy kind of guy.
Yeah, my neighbor Brent, he's a friend that goes back, I guess, close to 30 years by now. He's been a neighbor of mine out here in Duval for a long time, and he's one of the guys I invited over to my house for this recent brainstorming party. He's a guy that just has a lot of hands-on knowledge as far as how things operate, how mechanical things operate. And to give you an example, Brent restores antique tractors. So he's just a guy that knows about parts and pieces. He's a guy that just knows a lot of things about leverage and cable and ropes and pulleys. So when we had our brainstorming session the other night, he definitely shined as far as somebody that was really coming up with some great ideas that were very much appreciated on my part and has gotten me more excited about the process.
Great. Okay, so we have the physical part, you getting up there, you skiing down, and then we have the long-term mission of trying to have this help other people learn how to ski. And tell me about that.
Well, when I first came to the conclusion that I was going to take on skiing again, understanding that it has been 28 years since I've been gone, and when I left skiing back in 1985, I was a high-profile skier. I was a marketable person at that time, and this many years later, I'm coming back into skiing, and I'm looking to do some. I'm looking to come out with a big splash, so to speak, and I'm going to be marketable once again. I've gotten myself in great physical shape for how old I am. So with with the level of my fitness, what I think I'm going to be capable of doing, what I think I'm going to do as far as skiing a high-profile target, I want to take advantage of the fact that this is a very marketable opportunity for me to try and do something good with it. So what my intent is to produce a documentary ski film and take that documentary ski film and go out and do public speaking engagements, motivational speaking, and with the money earned from that, my intent is to put it back into a nonprofit adaptive skiing program and have the dollars that I'm able to produce be specifically earmarked for helping injured soldiers, wounded warriors learn how to ski. And one thing about that particular population, from a patriotism standpoint, they resonate with me. The fact that, that's a group of people that, the ones that have gotten themselves hurt, put themselves in harm's way, they're protecting my way of life, they're protecting my freedom, and they've given up their former whole, complete bodies for me. And so I want to help them. I want to give back, and it's also a group that I can identify with because I've been traumatized due to my spinal cord injury. I've experienced all that goes along with that and all the life-changing challenges associated with it. So I can, there's a kinship I have with injured soldiers, male, female, doesn't matter, coming back from the situations that have put them in some ways similar to me.
Great. How are you gonna promote your cause? You're gonna make a ski movie. Talk a little bit about going on the radio, getting the word out. You're going to be doing that, right?
Yeah, I'm looking to I'm setting out to do a documentary ski film. I've got I've been in the Seattle area for I'm 57 and I've been here since I was 13, and I've got a real strong social network of friends. So I have a lot of capability from a networking standpoint to put the word out there. One of the things I'll be doing is radio talk show type stuff. I'm looking to do newspaper articles. That's something that I'm looking to do. If I can possibly get some coverage from some of the local television stations in the Seattle area, and also using Facebook, using the internet. So it's going to be a collection of things. It's going to be a lot of heavy lifting on me personally, but I do have a real strong support base out there, and so typically when I've taken on a project, it's usually not hard for me to enlist support from people that care about me and care about my causes. This would be the second time I've taken on a cause for the military. A few years back in 2004, I spent an entire year helping a family where the gentleman had come back from the war in Iraq as a quadriplegic, so this is not my first rodeo, so to speak, on this subject.
Perfect. Tell me a little bit about your early rehab history and bring in Shannon into the picture.
Okay. Yeah, my early history post injury back in 1985. It was I've met some people back then that were my physical therapists, and two that I would name is one is Shannon O'Kelly, another one is Pete Rigby, and these are individuals that to this day are important friends of mine in my life, and they're people that I can go 6 months without seeing them, but once we get back together we just light up like it was yesterday. But these were people that were willing to be by my side back when I took a real hard 4-year-long run at trying to walk again, and I was going against the grain. I was going against the system. I was not a good patient, but in their minds, I was the best patient. And because there was, what I was trying to do was controversial. Everybody wanted me to just accept it, get on with it. But for me, I needed to leave no stones unturned. I needed to give it my all. And I did for a solid 4 years between working, doing therapy after I worked, going into the gym at night. I gave it a solid 4 years until I finally got to a place where I could just say, hey, you know what, Mike, talking to myself, I can't beat this. It's bigger than me. And then I was able to just, turn that page and that final page of that chapter in my life, move ahead. And first thing I started doing was the completion of my house out here in Duval that was in mid-construction when I got hurt. So it was my way of doing it. And I had a couple of wonderful therapists that again are my friends to this day, and I'm so thankful that they were there, with me like that.
Great. You mentioned working out. I know that you're going to be preparing physically for this, going back to skiing, and it's going to take a lot of endurance and strength. Tell me a little bit about Duval Fitness and then what your workouts are like when you go down there.
Well, Duval Fitness, the owners of the gym is Michelle Wolf and Jeff Wolf. They're neighbors of mine. I approached Jeff Wolf recently and let him know that I was looking to return to skiing, looking to see if I could get a gifted membership from him, and that I would, the intent being that I would try and get some exposure for his gym through press and so forth. So, Jeff and I went out and had coffee, and he just kind of said this is a no-brainer. So he kind of wrapped his arms around me on this thing. So I'm training in their gym 5 and 6 days a week. I'm down about 20 pounds, and I do, the work I do in there is endurance type work. I don't lift heavy weights, but I do heavy repetitions, and I'm in there figuring out, how I can use a gym. And I've spent a lot of time in the gym post rehab. So I'm not any stranger to the gym, but in a gym environment, I go in there and I do a lot of the same stuff that other people do, and then I've got to get creative on how I can use a gym that's specific to my injury and my capabilities, my challenges. But it's all going very well. It's all going very well because I've got to get myself in the absolute shape of my life. And so I not only need to get in good shape physically for improving the odds of how well I learn how to ski again, but also at my age, just making sure that I'm as durable as I can be, because I'm going to be hitting the deck a few times, I'm anticipating.
Great. So tell me some, like, say, throwing the medicine ball. Give me some specifics about numbers of reps and weights and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, one example of one of my workouts I've done in the gym is, I've used a personal trainer down there, Jim Cooper, a couple times, and one day I'm seeing Jim laying on his back, and he's throwing the medicine ball off his chest, catching it, throwing it off his chest, catching it, and I saw him doing that, and I thought, you know what, that's something I might be able to do as well. I wasn't familiar with that, so I started working out with the medicine ball, and the biggest advantage of that for me was burning calories and sweating real hard, and starting to take some weight off. So with the medicine ball workout, I'll lay on my back and I'm heaving that ball off my chest. And I started with a lighter weight ball, a 10, then I went to a 15-pound ball, and I'd be doing like sets of 50, and maybe I'd do 10 sets of 50, and then eventually it's 10 sets of 100, and I just kept getting stronger and stronger, greater endurance. So I got to a point where I was using the 25-pound medicine ball. It's the heaviest one that's in there, and I'd go spend my entire time in the gym for maybe an hour and a half. Throwing that medicine ball, I might be throwing that thing off my chest, leaving my hands and catching it 300 times, taking a drink of water, toweling myself off 300 times, and just keep repeating that process over and over. And then eventually throwing that thing into the air like 500 times. And I would have people that would just say, man, Mike, I saw you the other day. I came into the gym. That's what you're doing. I left after my workout. That's what you're doing. Like, are you kidding me? But it's just that level of an intensity that I need to do. Whatever the average individual needs to do, I need to just exceed that by a whole heck of a lot with what it is that I've got in front of me here.
Great. Tell me a little bit about some of the emotional periods and how that may have led up to your decision to come back, and a little bit about Lori.
Yeah. Okay. It's been about 2.5, maybe going on 3 years now that I started experiencing depression. I started to suffer from depression, and it's something that I'd never been affected by. After my injury, that surprised a lot of people that I never got depressed, and it's because I've been constantly ambitiously doing projects, setting goals, whether it be work related on my house, and so I've been very, very busy. And I think I've probably always been about 5 steps ahead of depression. And one of the things that I started working with my therapist Lori, 2.5 years ago when I went in and got diagnosed. And so one of the things I've discovered is that I had a traumatic event that happened in my life, which everybody could understand that, But with that traumatic event, I really didn't work my way through it. I just powered my way through it, and one of the things that happened is I've got what everybody hears about, the post-traumatic stress disorder. Mine being different but similar to the guys that get hurt in the military, in that it's a traumatic event that is kind of staying with me, haunting me. But I didn't know it, and it finally, between that and some other challenges I had in my childhood, it finally just kind of all, boiled up, and I hit some stones in the road where it just became a little bit too much, and so when depression showed up, I started seeing a psychotherapist, and trying to understand what was going on. So with that process of me working through that, I call it a process of self-examination, self-discovery. As I was working through that process, just trying to get to what has caused this to happen to me, because I've lived a very full, active, fulfilling life. But I've come to realize that, I was still very broken from what happened to me skiing. So, with the process of me working through that and dealing with the mental side of this whole thing, it just started opening me up to the possibility of skiing again. It's not something that I set out to do when I started doing that work, but it's something that has come about as a result of that work. and it's one of those things where I've just got this giant broken heart that I've lived with due to my loss of skiing, and I get to fix that, and I'm getting prepared to fix that, and it's one of the most incredibly exciting times of my life and liberating times of my life, this path that I'm about to go down.
Great. Now you're going to go to Sun Valley. You're going to spend a week learning how to ski. Are you going to be out there on your own, or are you going to be people going to be coming with you to give you some support, or how's that going to work? Maybe who are you going to be working with out there?
Well, I put the word out a year ago that I was coming back skiing, and when I did, I put the word out. I'm coming back skiing. I'm going to do a documentary ski film. I'm going to reunite with my skiing friends on the hill. So I raised the bar real high for myself and put myself in a position where it's like, okay, now I've got to come through. I've got a lot of support behind me, and I'm anticipating a pretty good turnout of my my long-term some of my skiing friends that I don't necessarily see as much these days on a regular basis. They're going to be there, and then some of my best friends that are my skiing pals from back then, they're going to be there. So I'm expecting a pretty good head count of following that's going to come to Sun Valley to be there when I learn how to ski again, and I'm going to ski with them. So I'm going to have a great support base, and some of my friends, Dennis McCormick, Jeff Bronze, John Tardif. These are Doug Perry. These are guys I go back to the 9th and 10th grade with, and so I'm going to be in very, very good company when I find myself in a very, very challenging and very vulnerable situation. But I get the right kind of support.
Great. I'm going to wait for this airplane. Let's just cut it for a second.
Got it.
So you're gonna find some some professional help out there, ski wise. Yeah, tell us a little bit about.
Well, what has come about is I've been introduced to a gentleman named Mark Mast. He's got a ski school in Sun Valley, or an adaptive skiing program that is for people like myself, and he's helped people learn how to ski again that could be blind, could be no legs, could be paralyzed like myself. So he's worked with an assortment of different people over the years. So I've been introduced to him, and I've been in communication with him. So he's the one that currently is earmarked for my return to skiing to be taught by Mark Mast over in Sun Valley, Idaho. And the other thing about returning to Sun Valley that is very intriguing, to go there. Mark is over there. That's part of the draw, his skill level as an instructor. But my last time in Sun Valley was, doing some work for, the same book I mentioned earlier, which was Freestyle Skiing, the Fundamentals. I was over there as a demonstrator. So we stayed over at Elkhorn, and I was there specifically doing that work back in 1976. And 2 years prior to that, I was over there in a Chevrolet-sponsored freestyle skiing competition back in 1974. So going to Sun Valley has a lot of value for me because I'm returning to a place where I was alpha dog. And so there's a lot of good reasons why I want to go to Sun Valley to learn how to ski again. And I also like the idea that it's going to be a getaway for me. I want to go to a magical place, because Sun Valley's magical. It just is. I want to go away to a magical place and do that kind of getaway when I take on this task, this journey of learning how to ski again.
Perfect. Okay. Shannon Blodell is kind of a person that's local. It's kind of a mentor figure for you. Tell me what kind of advice you have, and tell me a little bit about Shannon Blodell.
Yeah, Shannon Blodell, that is female Shannon Blodell. She's a champion monoskier, and she, or I'll say a former champion. She has not been competing, I'm going to suggest for the past 15 years or more. But she's a champion monoskier. So like myself, her as a mentor for me, I'm a champion level skier. Shannon's a champion level skier. I've never monoskied. I'm about to. Shannon's never skied like I did because Shannon got hurt at age 10, I believe it was, in a car accident. So she learned to ski monoskiing but we're both champions. So she's somebody that I'm using as not using, but she's somebody that is offering me advice as a mentor. So she's somebody that I'm interfacing with on this thing. Her and her husband Troy, great, wonderful people, but they're a very valuable resource for me to go to. And I've known Shannon for a long, long time, and we'd been out of touch for many years. But when I got reconnected with her, it was just. She couldn't be more supportive. And so she's just a person that's an asset. She's in my corner in this whole thing.
Perfect. Let's see. So are you, I can tell you're excited about this journey you're going to embark on. Is there any fear, or do you feel like, hey, I can definitely do this?
Oh, there's plenty of fear, and when I say fear, I think the fear comes with just the fact that I know I'm going to be stripped down to beginner level student. I'm not going to pretend or fool myself into thinking I get to take my ego, my former skiing skills, my credentials. They're not going to translate. What's going to translate is my mindset. That's going to work by all means. My level of conditioning that I'm in is going to be helpful to me. But I'm fully expecting the challenge of my life when I go learn how to ski again, and it's going to be intimidating. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be all of that stuff. And I can certainly, recall the frustration, everything that went along with learning how to ski way back at the time. It's going to be so much more than that because I was a great skier. When I went through all those struggles learning how to ski, I was like everybody else, starting from scratch, but I'm going back to scratch. So it's, from a psychological standpoint, it's daunting. And I'm really hanging it out there with what I'm doing, and historically that's kind of how I've operated the best, when I put myself at risk and am willing to just say, I'm going for it, and I have full expectations that I'm going to do very well at it.
Great. Now that we got the 5-speed, could you hear that pretty?
It came through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, want to do that again?
Let's do that again.
All right. Yeah. So about the fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole idea. I've put it out there. I'm going back skiing. I'm going to go learn how to monoski, and I'm saying I'm going to then go do something grandiose. I'm going to go ski a high-profile target. I'm setting myself up for failure. But I don't plan on failing, and it's scary, it's intimidating, it is, there's certainly fear involved, because, I can reflect back on learning how to ski again, and I was very passionate about skiing very early on, but just the progression, what it took, wanting to be as good as these other guys out on the hill, and just the struggle that went along with that. It's something that I never did forget. It's going to be much more challenging this go around because I was a great skier, and I'm going to come back to this same baseline place. I don't get a shortcut. Nothing's going to translate. I don't get a get out of jail free card. Doesn't matter what I've done. It just doesn't matter. I'm going to be starting at the very, very bottom of this. And that's just a whole different place that I'm going to be at. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
Great. Perfect. I just had something I was thinking about. Let's see. Just 1 second. Go ahead and cut it for 1 second.
And what's your watch look like?
Rolling.
Yeah, just go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. When we talk about how I took on my physical therapy when I was trying to walk again, that's something that the way I best explain that to people, that was not lost opportunity at all, the 4 years I put into that, because I was so disciplined, so dedicated, so steadfast, so unwavering at what I did when that came to an end and I decided, you know what, I've got to stop. I can't. I'm not going to be able to accomplish what I set out to. Then it was time to take all that energy, all that enthusiasm, all that discipline, and turn it to the next thing. So, my house here where we are, it's something that I had, it's a hand-hewn log house built off my acreage. Before my getting hurt, I cut down the trees, skinned the logs, and so, so I've never been fearful of hard work. And so, once I got back to, rebuilding my life, like I've told people, it's like the, high-powered fire hose and you're putting out a fire. Well, as soon as you turn that same energy to something else, you apply it differently. So I've had a very fulfilling, busy life with my finishing the construction of my home. I do a lot of environmental work here on my property. I refer to myself as being a steward of the land. My house out here, I do, I've done a couple of garden tours where people come out to visit my property and see my environmental stewardship work. The house, it's won awards for universal design and green design. I've adopted 4 Asian children. I've, done a fundraising campaign, took a year of my life, working with a military family. So, and then, I put in a good stretch with the construction industry and was very successful as an estimator and a project manager. So I just been on the go, just go, 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 go. And that is what has served me, and it served me because being in this wheelchair, being paralyzed, it's a tough go when I go to bed at night, and it's a tough go when I get out of bed in the morning. And so I really have to be moving and be project focused. And I was like that before I got injured. When I got injured, subconsciously, that excessive behavior of mine that was with me before, it got hijacked and it took it to another level. And at this point in my life, I'm really trying to find that fine balance where I don't overdo it, but I've got more conscious control of it these days. But with the whole idea of going back to paradise, return to paradise, title of the movie, and going back up on Mount Rainier, that's just the way that I operate. I have a hard time biting into something and not really tearing it up. So there you go.
Perfect. Anything you can think of that we haven't covered?
I got something.
Yeah.
Mike, are you briefly describe, I know we talked about the fear and everything, but are you psyched to go for this next goal of doing Mirror, Sun Valley, going skiing? Yeah.
Okay.
Briefly, are you psyched on this?
No, I'm at a place now. I'm at a place now.
Hey, I'm gonna have to stop you, Mike. Hang on a second. It sounded like it was popping a little bit.
Oh.
We're good. We're okay. Sorry about that.
Okay. I'm at a place now where I'm finding some inner peace, and this, at age 57, time is motivating me. Time is absolutely motivating me. And this idea of returning to skiing with the evolution of the sit ski / mono ski, things that I see these great high-level athletes doing on the mono ski, I'm seeing something where I'm looking at that and I'm just going, I can be doing something great. Doesn't mean I'm going to reach a level of what I see these guys doing, but there's something out there for me that has me terribly excited. I want to get back up on the mountain. I want to breathe that mountain air. I want to have that wind in my face. I want to be having those conversations with my friends on the chairlift. I want to have that, be in that place of camaraderie. I've always got camaraderie, but that special class of people that's the skiing community. I want to be back doing that. So I am just, and with the idea of setting this big goal to go up Mount Rainier, return to paradise, do something that hasn't been done, but I've still got to go learn how to monoski. It's putting me in that risky place that I did really well at back in my days as a champion level freestyle skier, pioneer of the sport of the freestyle skiing, where my willingness to do that had me producing some incredibly phenomenal outcomes, and I get a chance to take a shot at that, and I couldn't be more excited. Couldn't be more excited about it.
Right on. Perfect.
Good.
Yeah, I think we're good. That